So this is my evaluation question 4 and 5 answer. So for question 4, it's who would be the audience for your media project? And question 5 is how do you attract and address your audience? So for question 4, my primary audience would be teenage girls in the DE category, aged 16 to 25, mainly because it's set in a school and the protagonists are teenage girls, enabling them to identify with the protagonists. My secondary audience is teenage boys and girls of an older age, possibly like 25 up, just so you can relate to the past self because everyone went to high school. And teenage boys, the female gaze will attract the audience, and there's also a sense of danger and kind of like death, so hopefully that will attract teenage boys as well. For the age, our original thoughts were teenagers, high school students. In 2015, there was an increase from 26% to 35% in admissions of teenagers age 15 to 24 going to see the films in cinemas. And the social category 15 to 24 mainly watch comedy and action according to the BFI website. Ours involves comedy due to it being a black comedy, and if the film were to progress Neighbours, it would also be an action / thriller. But yeah, social group would be DE, and the gender would there be a greater female audience because there's a greater female protagonist ratio to male according to the BFI website. So our film goes to the general conventions due to they can identify, enabling them to identify with the protagonists. For example, what we did on our holiday, there's a female protagonist, and this is romance, and their audience was 80% females. The Hunger Games didn't have a gender difference between male and female due to there being male and female presence and it being an action film. We're appealing to all sexualities, mainly female characters are involved, so therefore a mainly female audience. It's going to be, I'd say, fans of the film Heathers from 1988 might be interested in coming to see Neighbours. Because Heathers was filmed in 1988, fans might be intrigued that there's another film of similar variety. And also audiences who have seen Mean Girls. Actually, for the preferred reading of our film, it would be helpful if our audience had seen films such as Mean Girls and Heathers to get the idea of the cliques and how one girl is often left out. The national BBFC rating will suggest that our film is a 12A due to there being mild violence, suggestions of bad language, and also because Heathers is a 15 and Pretty in Pink is a 12, so we sort of based it in between there. Izzy and the two protagonists at the side of her are wearing pink lipstick, representing that they're a clique. The female audience would get the impression and understand that they're sort of more on the feminine side, whereas Sarah's not wearing any makeup apart from very simple mascara, which we see her put on in the first couple of minutes of the film opening. So just to show the binary opposition of the two girls. And also, for audience research, we sat in the classroom and we all showed our films. So for my film, there was one female in the audience, which was Nicola, and she said that she would go see it, and that the intention was clear that Sarah was the killer. The narrative was clear. The rest were our secondary audience, male teenagers. They said they'd be more intrigued if it sort of involved kind of more thriller and kind of like action violence type thing, which is generally what we thought of in the first place. Audience for this black comedy would be, audiences such as Heathers and Donnie Darko and Scream Queens. It's a dark comedy, but also a thriller due to the violence of the film. Nationality of our characters were all Caucasian females. Working title appealed to the USA audiences and UK audiences, whereas Warp focuses on the UK. So our film is mainly focusing on the UK. It's set in a British school with British females. This is how it kind of attracts the British audience, and British females can identify with the characters. Even though the main audience and character are females, the violence and ambiguity of the film helps bring in other genres such as thriller and the black comedy. Our secondary audience, the violence and murders bring in the male audience and older females. The school atmosphere will bring back memories for the older girls and their past education, and they'll be able to relate to the protagonists such as Sarah and Izzy. For question 5, how did we attract and address your audience? How did you attract and address your How did we attract and address our audience? For attracting our audience, we told our friends about the film and the narrative that it involved, about a girl who used to be friends with this other girl. So Sarah used to be friends with Izzy when they were younger, and they've become neighbours now. Sarah moved away for a while. They've become neighbours. Sarah's sort of watching these girls, and she is the killer she's going to slowly kill off each of these girls if the film were to progress. We posted it on Facebook to attract the general public, and posting it on YouTube for the world to see, just not making it a private account, then many people can see our film. And also using Google Blogger, that's open to many people who are interested in film A-levels in the UK. I've looked at where my viewers come from, and most of them are from the UK. Some of them are from the USA, Indonesia. So it kind of gives you an idea that that there's people outside of the UK looking at my blog and finding out about my film. And to address the audience, we portrayed the protagonist and antagonist with some ambiguity throughout the film, so we don't really get a good sense of who they are necessarily. We just kind of show that they're really strongly binary oppositions. We wanted the audience to be sympathetic towards Sarah on her own at the start, because she's not part of the clique, assuming that the cliques are antagonists as well. However, as we go through towards the end, when we see Sarah crossing off the face on the wall, we learn that Sarah's the antagonist killing these girls off. I wouldn't necessarily say there was a protagonist, type of good guy, due to the symbolism of everyone having dark secrets in high school. However, Izzy hasn't necessarily been the main antagonist because we don't see her doing anything wrong to Sarah in the opening 2 minutes. We use narrative enigma about Sarah. She's not who she says she is. Humour throughout. It's going to be quite sarcastic overall. The situation. It's kind of going to be like a normal high school, such as Mean Girls. The comedy. So we're going to have that twist on it if the film was to progress. You'd see more comedy. At the moment, it's quite ambiguous and dark. For the opening 2 minutes, just to sort of bring in the audience and sort of not scare them, but sort of make them want to see more about it. There's no dialect within the first 2 minutes, apart from the letter being read out from Isabel to Sarah, and this is in a British accent. For a preferred reading, the audience would have to have seen Mean Girls or a typical American high school film. They would also have to understand that the girls have a dark past, and this is the reasoning to the tension throughout the opening 2 minutes. Representations, such as the lipstick that the clique wear, suggest that the girls are staying together and no one can enter or leave their group. This is tying them together. The audience can see more than one character in the first 2 minutes. This is privileged prov. We see Sarah and Izzy, and both are main antagonists. We also see the remaining clique walking through the school and at the graveyard. The shots are mainly focusing on the body and the clothing and how it fits the girl the girls and how both are quite wearing different things. So Sarah's wearing darker clothes, which represent her personality, and Izzy's wearing, white and denim, which kind of represents that she's not necessarily a baddie in the whole situation. The genre of the music is indie. I use a punk rock guitar to begin with, and I slowed it down so that it just sort of build up throughout. Sound is going to be used. Sound has been used to build the tension, and the music changes when Sarah comes into contact with the girls walking into the school. She spots them, and then it goes into a split screen, and the music increases with ease. Eventually the music builds up, and there's a tracking shot of Sarah following the clique, and the music then also increases, and another sound is added, building the tension, which creates the effect that more is happening. The male gaze was brought in by attractive females, and there is a suggestion of violence when Sarah crosses the face off on the wall, suggesting murders and more murders to come. For the intertextuality, we didn't use any intertextuality throughout the film. However, our film is heavily based on the film Heathers and Scream Queens. And things that didn't work so well is Sarah's wearing boots in one scene and trainers in the other shot. To get around this, I did actually crop the shoes out of the shot. Then the shoes went in the shot, and you can't tell the continuity error. Some shots are blurred instead of being in focus. However, due to us having quite a large cast, it's hard to get all the girls together at once, so unfortunately we've had to work with the shots that we have.